asked what was the potential queen doing when the queen was still present, and she was only showing small amounts of aggression. Maybe more than the queen, but nothing compared to what is here. And here it's already come down. If you wait for another day, it comes back to the level of day 1. If you don't put the word queen back, then gradually, over a few days, she will lose all her aggression. And by this time, she is a full-fledged queen. So the system is somewhat opposite of other species. So the answer to this question is Armadillo queens in their careers as very aggressive individuals and only later become weak and docile. This of course raises many questions of how she controls her workers' reproduction. How does she prevent other individuals from becoming queens? Because she's not aggressive. Now I won't, that's a separate line of research, I won't talk about it today, but I'll just give you the final one-sentence answer. We have now evidence that like a honeybee queen, like an ant queen, she produces a chemical substance, like what we call pheromones. She produces this chemical substance, and through that she suppresses the reproduction of other individuals, like the advanced societies, like the honeybee ants. But that still leaves the question, how does she prevent the workers from becoming lazy? Because in such species, aggression is used both for suppressing reproduction of the workers and for making them do work. How is work regulated, performed in such a species? It is hard to imagine that she will produce a chemical which tells the workers go and drink food. It doesn't seem like it. And she is not aggressive. So how does work happen in such a species? So how does she regulate worker activity, the non-reproductive? That's what I want to talk about today. About the reproductive activity, as I said, we have done a series of experiments and we have evidence that it is based on pheromones. But it is the non-reproductive activity that I want to focus on today, because that is most relevant to organization, self-organization. And in order to do this, again, we did a queen removal experiment and we asked what happens if you remove it. Now, in other species, if you remove the queen, the workers all become lazy. They stop working, put the queen back, and she will again go and let them bite them off, and then they'll work. In fact, if when a worker brings food and she just sits down in the colony, the queen will come and bite her, and then she'll go and bring more food. So unless the queen actually physically prods individuals, they don't work. That is their signal that they need to work. So if you remove the queen, the colony work comes to a stop. Put the queen back, it starts again in other species. So we said, what happens in other species? So we remove the queen, believe it or not, nothing happens. The workers don't care. They continue to work. They are the most conscientious workers. Here is data on queen food. Day 1 with the queen, without the queen, with the queen return, no difference. This is the rate at which larvae are fed with the queen, without the queen, put the queen back. They don't care. The workers continue to work whether there is a queen or not, which is very unusual for species. And of course, this again raises many questions. How does this happen? Why does this happen? So we came up with the following idea. We said maybe the queen has no role in regulating worker activity. How did that happen? At this point, we made a chance observation. What we found was that in a normal colony, when workers given food, they are enthusiastically received by the workers sitting at home. The food is unloaded. Whereas, when the queen is removed, one individual becomes so aggressive that in fact, for a few hours after the queen is removed, this hyper-aggressive potential queen, she is so aggressive that she chases away all the individuals. Most of the time, there is nobody. But the workers who are working outside, they are bringing food. They come home and they find there is nobody to receive it, nobody to take the food from. What do? They go into the nest themselves and they feed the larvae, which they normally don't do. Normally they hand over and go away. But when nobody to unload, they themselves go and feed the larvae. So you see here, unloading is high with the queen, very low on day 2 without the queen, and once again high with the presence. And the contribution of the foragers to feeding is low on day 1 with the queen, becomes high on day 2, and becomes low on day 3. So our information about the hunger level of the crop, which they can convey to the foragers at the time they are unloading. Now, if a forager comes back and nobody unloads, she has two problems. She has what to do with the food. Second is, should I bring more? Nobody is telling me. So she goes and feeds the larvae herself. That way she gets rid of the food and she gets first-hand information on the hunger level and decides whether to go and bring it. So this is our hypothesis. So the answer to this question is the queen does not regulate the foraging by the workers. In the presence of the queen, intra-night means those who are at home. Intra-night workers regulate foraging in a decentralized, self-organized manner. In the absence of the queen, the foragers themselves take over this task. So the distinction only is between workers who work at home and workers who work outside and not the queen herself. This raises the question of how does this decentralized, self-organized thing work? What is the mechanism by which the intra-night workers are communicating information to the foragers about the hunger signals? What is the mechanism? So here is a phenomenon which needs a mechanism. And at the same time, we have the following problem. In this species, aggression is not used for reproductive competition. But there is aggression. Why are the workers aggressive to each other? What is the function of it? In other species, the queen is the most aggressive individual. The one who becomes the next queen is the next most aggressive individual. So aggression is used to make a cue for becoming future queens. That's not true here. So why are they? So we have a phenomenon, namely self-organized regulation of work, which needs a mechanism, and we have aggression for which we don't have a function. So we said here is behavior which has no function, here is a mechanism which needs a mechanism. Why don't we make a hypothesis of putting these two together and suggest that worker-worker aggression is the mechanism by which information is communicated from one worker to the other. So our hypothesis is that when a forager comes back, if you just take the food from her, she understands no more food is needed. But if you take the food and climb on her and bite her a little bit, she thinks, oh, they need more. This is our hypothesis. And we want to test this. And there are various ways in which we have tested that. First is casual observation. We find that in this species, when the forager brings food, and for some reason becomes lazy and stays home, it is not the queen who comes and bites her, but it is one of the intra-night workers who comes and bites her. And in response to that biting, she often leaves more than the food. So what you see is that the queen is doing in other species, workers seem to do. This is the first line of evidence. The second line of evidence is a little more quantitative. We said, if this is true, then there must be a correlation between how much aggression I receive and how much food I get. So we asked whether that is true. And we found a weak but statistically significant positive correlation between the fraction of darwinism received by a worker and the contribution to the food. So the more aggression I receive, the more my contribution is to the food problem. So the second line of evidence is this. Now the first line of evidence is anecdotal, cannot really be taken seriously, won't stand as evidence in a court of law. This is better, but it is correlational, not good enough. Because correlation cannot be taken as cause and effect. Two things may be correlated, but that doesn't mean one causes the other. There may be a third thing which causes both of these. So you have to do experiments. And here it turns out you can do very nice experiments to test whether this hypothesis is correct. The first experiment we did was we gave was excess food. So one of my students learned that she takes a little bit of food and reinforces and waits quietly in front of the nest. First the wasp will be afraid, after a while there is a here is a piece of nice food, so they come and take it. And then she brings another piece of food and stays quietly in front of the nest and they take it. And she does this so that they have so much food they don't need any more food. So you feed them in excess and then you study them